I just want to go home. Me too. And I got my son back.
All right. So when it comes down to, I guess, like power and everything that happened within the show, right? It had me thinking about like the top 10 like list of shows of like one of like the greatest shows of all time with like Sopranos, The Wire, Breaking Bad, Dexter, right? All these great shows. And it had me thinking about like power and the things that took place in the show and the things that they could have done, right? And I wanted to ask the community this, like, do you consider like Power to be like one of the greatest shows of all time, right? Maybe up there with like The Wire, because um I've watched The Wire and I finished The Wire like a long time ago, and there was like certain things within the show that people would have wanted, right? And the biggest one was McNulty versus Stringer Bell. And it was like Stringer Bell to me, he was he was smart, but he all right, like he sort of reminded me of Ghost just like a little bit, right? Because of how smart he was and how he was trying to like put things together, right? Even though it ultimately it ended up him dying because Avon, but like he found out the truth that I think what was it, D'Angelo? Like D'Angelo died, and Stringer Bell had something to do with his death, and he basically orchestrated his death to in prison, and that's when Avon was like, I was close with him, and you did this to me, and that's when Avon basically had him get killed, right? And people didn't like that idea of Stringer Bell basically dying, and they liked the idea of Stringer Bell versus McNulty, and that was the big thing back then. And even when I was watching it, and I agreed with a lot of people, and I was like, technically, this was it. Like they sort of fucked up, and I was like, this was it because. Again, Marlowe was an okay character in the story. From what they was telling, it was okay, right? But it wasn't Stringer Bell. Like Stringer Bell had presence, like he had something, right? And it just had me thinking about things in Power again. And it's like, Power, I don't think it ever won like an Oscar. Right? I don't think it ever won like an Oscar or an Emmy or nomination. I don't know if it had like those recollections, right? Of nominations and accomplishments, right? I don't think it ever had any of that, right? And it just had its own like Power Choice Awards in its own community, because that's what it really is. It's like it's only in the community that you would know about, like, the Power Choice Awards and certain characters, certain events or whatever. But it was never really like brought out like that, like compared to like The Wire, Sopranos, right? Breaking Bad, Dexter, right? And not saying that it wasn't on like Power wasn't on like a good network, because Stars is a good network. Like you can pull some good shows from Stars, right? But I don't know. It's just that I'm not, again, I would never say like it was like a bad show or anything, but I don't know, maybe it wasn't like appealing to like a broader audience for people to like really get invested into like the characters that was being told in Power, and maybe in Power Book 2 Ghosts as well, and Power Book 4 Force, right? Like I don't know because it just had me thinking, and I was like, yeah, because again, Power was like a really good show, right? And despite everybody's grievances and differences about like the show and about the characters and about certain things that they could have done with Ghost, it's like it was still a good show. And I think that if things would have went accordingly, and like I feel like they could have done so much more, right? And I think that if obviously the elephant in the room about the whole Ghost stuff, right? I think that maybe it could have been put out there further, right? I think it could have broadened out the horizons more on with the character, because you look at Walter White, right? Walter White was like, oh my lord, that character will forever go down as like one of like the greatest characters in television history. like it has to go down as one of the greatest, because it started off slow. Where it was just like you had this chemist, he had cancer, right? Great teacher, great professor, right? But then he, like, the murder stuff started to happen slow, because he was conflicted on if he should have killed, I forgot his name, but he had him tied up in a basement somewhere. Like he was conflicted on killing him. He was thinking about letting him go, but then he counted like the pieces of the broken, I guess, plate, and then he noticed that one of the pieces was missing. So he looked at him, and they looked at each other. He like, listen, man, I don't want to kill you. I want to really let you go here. And then that's when he stabbed him, and then that's when Walter White kills him, and then it messes him up because he just killed the guy. He never killed anybody. Like, that stuff was really good. I know some people felt like it was a little bit boring, a little bit trash, right? You know, to each his own. But that's the thing, though. Something about that show, even though there was rumors that it was going to get canceled, right? It was going to get canceled, but then after a while, it was just, oh, let's see more, dish it out a little more. Let's see what they're going to do. And then next thing you know, it just hits you with fucking, like, what the fuck? Like, standing up, saying, like, for me, when I saw the shit, standing up, and I was like, this shit is fucking perfection. This is perfection. This is television. Like, I was fucking going off when I seen that shit, right? And it was just like moments like that just made you feel like, okay, this is it. Like, this is television. Sopranos, the same way, where it was just like you watch the show, you was wondering what's gonna happen with Tony Soprano. Either he's gonna die, he's either gonna go to prison, right? It just made you like, damn, like what's gonna happen, right? Had you on the edge of your seat because you didn't really know what was going on, and it was there. Now with Dexter, it was good, but it had its inconsistencies with certain storylines and certain plot holes within the story. There were certain inconsistencies, and most television shows do have that, right? Like some inconsistencies, some plot holes here and there, right? But it was like with Dexter, it was still a good show, but it was like some inconsistencies here and there, and it just had me thinking about like Power, and I was like, damn, man, like there was some inconsistencies, you know. Maybe a plot hole or two. Like it was some things that was missing. It just had me thinking about it, and I was like, damn, like there was a lot of things that they could have went far with, like Power, right? Because like I say, you know, Ghost was the guy, he was the man, and he was the like the person that I felt like they could have done so much more, because maybe it would have gotten brought out into the horizon of the community, where more and more people would have had eyes on it. Because again, not saying that nobody knows about Power. I'm not going to say like, oh no, because again, you had like millions not worldwide, but you had like millions of viewers who watched it, right? So majority of the people would know about it, but I felt like it didn't really hit like the upper threshold. Oh no, I'm sorry, the upper echelons, right? I feel like I haven't like hit there where people would have just been like, more and more people would have been talking about it, right? Because anywhere like Bryan Cranston and what's his face? Oh my god, I forgot his name. But I'm gonna call him Jesse because I forgot his name. But Bryan Cranston and basically Jesse, I forgot his doggone name. But anytime that they go out anywhere, right? They basically like they talk about it like, oh yeah, you know, Breaking Bad. Like they even had commercials. They even had fucking commercials off of this damn show. Where I think it was like the popcorners, and then they was at the Super Bowl. Like it was so big. It was like so much that was going on. Pause. It was so much that was going on back then, and I'm like, damn, you know, I kind of wish Power had this too. I really did. I really did wish that Power would have had this as well. Now, granted, I still know that there's still talks about, you know, a potential returning of Ghost and Power Origins, which is fine because that's probably when we're gonna hear and see from the man. But you know, 4-Force and all that other stuff is just like, I don't know, this and that or whatever. But again, I've talked about like plenty of times about the big missed opportunities that they could have had with like Ghost and Power Book 2 Ghost as well, and the characters that they had at the time. I talked about that, you know, heavily on the channel about what they could have done. But again, I felt like the things that they told was okay to a certain extent. But here's the thing: we don't want them to do with like how in Dexter is, because in Dexter, we have right now, I think, what is it called? Dexter, I think, Original Sin. So you have the resurrection of Dexter, and then they talking about a young Dexter. And that's the thing, though. They fucked up, I believe, twice with Dexter's character, where his sister dies, and that's when he's in like some sort of storm on the boat. And we like, oh, okay, he's gonna die with his sister or whatever, because it finally broke him or whatever. We thought, oh, he dies. Next thing you know, he's somewhere as a lumberjack, and we like, he's a lumberjack. What the fuck? Okay. And then next thing you know, they gave us Dexter. I think it was New Blood. Yeah, Dexter New Blood. So we're like, okay, New Blood. Okay. It was good to a certain extent, and then they fucked up again, and you like, what you doing? And then it's like, okay, now we got original sin, so it's like now it's the resurrection and the return of Dexter. So it's like, we don't want that for Ghost. We really don't want that for Ghost, where it's just like, okay, they sort of fucked up, we knew they fucked up, and then they're trying to like fix it, and we want it to be like a good fix. We don't want it to be like a bad fix, right? We don't want it to be like, oh, it's oh, he's back now, like with no explanation or whatever. Because imagine if Ghost would have returned, right? Now again, Ghost, smart character, right? 10 steps ahead, right? But his return would have to make sense, though. In the grand scheme of it all, it would have had to have made sense for him to return. And why did he return? Why did he wait so long to return? What was his motivation? What was his reasoning, right? And it would have to make sense for him to return. So it's just like, as much as we love the character, as much as they could have done a lot with the show, and we could have had like maybe more seasons. We probably would have had more seasons. It might have not ended at season 6. We probably could have had like 10 seasons of Power, and it just been Ghost and Tariq and all the other characters that was shown in Power Book 2, Ghost and Power Book 4 Force, right? We could have had all of that combined into one. And I think if that was the case and done correctly and written well, then I would have said that Power should have been nominated. It should have gotten awards. More and more people should have talked about it, not just like the people who known about it and people who's in the community. I feel like Power should have been so much more, and I think it should have been like on that list, on that legendary list of like top shows, like of being like the greatest. Because I don't even know if Power on its own would be considered to be like one of the greatest shows. I don't even think it's on that conversation of being the best. I want it to be. I want it to be on the list of being like a really great show, but again, it's just like the things that they did, and I don't know. And in the majority, well, in the greater audience, is more like it's not to their liking. They probably seen half this stuff before. It doesn't really make any sense, It's just, you have those types of people out there, but I felt that I think it should have been Ghost to have been like the head runner of the show. He was the head runner of the show, but I feel like it should have been more to the show, because like I said, you had Dexter, you had Sopranos, you had The Wire, right? Even though The Wire, they didn't really have like they did in McNulty though, because McNulty was like the face, because he was always getting into something. He was always fucking around with so many women, doing females on cars in public and shit. Like, he was the face and he was the guy. But again, I always say it should have been McNulty and Stringer Bell, because they was telling something really interesting between those two. And I think that should have been it. Shit, even he mentioned it. Even he fucking mentioned it in the show. He was just like, damn, Stringer Bell is gone. And then when they showed up and he had like this in his room, and he had like these books and this and that, he was just like, yo, Stringer Bell, like, who really runs this guy? And it's just like, you see they sort of fucked up. So it's just like, again, like I said, if they was to ever do like a Ghost return, right, it would have to make sense. It would they can't do like Dexter. They just can't, because you would fuck it up and it wouldn't make any sense. Imagine if Stringer Bell would have returned out of nowhere after getting lit the hell up, and it's just like, oh shit, Stringer Bell is back, but he got sprayed with a bunch of bullet holes. What the fuck? Like, again, it would have to make sense. That's why I'm just like, I understand. I see the videos. I see titles. I get it. But it's just like, I don't know. But like I said before, I think Power could have been so much more. And I don't know if it will be on like on those lists where people like will talk about it and be like, oh, like top 10, top 20, right? I don't know. It could be. I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong, and it probably might be on like those lists and then up for discussion of being like the best shows of all time, the best television show of all time, and best characters, best story. I don't know. I could be wrong, but let me know in the comment section down below on the possibilities of I keep saying this over and over about the man possibly returning, right? The show potentially could have been much more in the upper echelons, right? And do you see the show being like maybe top 10, right? In the grand scheme of things, do you honestly see like the show like being top 10, maybe top 20, right, of greatest shows of all time. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and share, and I catch you all in the next one. All right, so I had to check to make sure I wasn't wrong about like Power not winning anything, because I was like, wait a minute, I know I'm bugging. I'm pretty sure Power did win some awards and something. So it won 3 awards, and it was nominated. It had 4 nominations back in like 2018. So it won like outstanding drama series, outstanding actor Omari Hardwick, outstanding supporting actress, which is Notori, and then the other one was outstanding performance by a young youth, which was Michael Rainey, aka Tariq, but he was nominated. He didn't win anything. So I was like, but you see what I'm saying? And my point is, it was like I wanted to maybe to win like an Oscar, an Emmy, right? For it to be, brought it out even more. Even Snowfall, which I forgot to mention in the video, that I wanted Snowfall as well to have won like an Oscar or an Emmy, because I'm pretty sure it also was nominated and got awards as well. But I just wished it would have got brought it out more to the audience rather than just how it was. But that was pretty much it.